So the first step is to insert an item which office services sell, which customers will be able to buy. So using this interactive menu, we can select option 3 to manage items, and that will give us two options: one to insert an item, and two to alter the stock of an item. So first of all, we want to insert a new item, and we give it a name. So plain A4 paper, for example. How many of that item do you have? So let's say there are 10. And let's say the price is £1.2, and the item ID is is an integer and is used to basically shorten this, and that'll make it a lot easier when using the system. So if we just, since this is the first item, just label that 1. The minimum stock value is basically the lowest amount you want in your current stock, and when this is reached, it will send an email to the user, which I will demonstrate later. So let's say you don't want to go below 5 stock, and then at the end of each session it will ask you if you want to return to the main selection page, and in this case yes. And we will be able to tell if this works by going over to the SQLite, where all the data is stored in SQL databases. And if we refresh the item, we now have the plain A4 paper in there. Right, so the second thing to do is to insert a new customer. So if I just restart that. So the next thing to do is to insert a new customer. So that's option 2, and insert a new customer, option 1. If you put in their name, and I will demonstrate error checking after this one. So the house, it's called a C house. The year 13, and the email address. Again, this is all error checked, which I'll demonstrate later. Alright, would you like to return? Yes. So the main function of the program will be the place order function, where if a pupil or a customer goes into office services and say wants to buy paper or blue tack or staples, the user or my client will go through this process, which I'll show you now. So place order by pressing 1, enter the name of the customer, enter the ID number. So remember, the ID number was, so for plain A4 paper, was 1, and that's why it's easier just to use an integer instead of the plain A4 paper writing that out. So by using 6, we will receive the low item stock, since the current stock is 10 and the stock limit is 5. Once it goes below that stock limit, it will then send an email to the user or the client, basically reminding them to reorder that item. Okay, so if we just check the email, your recent order, you can see that this is the email that will go to the customer who has just ordered. It's just a receipt of their email. So order, the name, what they ordered, how much, price, and there. Okay, so next we can view all the orders. Actually, just to refresh this and this, you can see that all the data has been put in. So this is the order data, so it keeps as we're about to see. So we can view orders using for, and that'll print all the orders from most recent. So as this gets more populated with more data, the most recent will be on top. We're able to manually adjust the stock by going into manage items. So this would be useful if you're receiving an order, say from a company, and you just need to increase the stock. So we'll select 2, select 1 for plain A4 paper. The current stock is 4, and let's say we want to add 11. And then that'll be updated to 15. Another function is, so every year every pupil will increase the year which is stored. So every pupil has a customer year which can be between 9 and 13, and every year that will obviously need updating. So I've got a function to automatically update that whenever a certain bit of code, which I'm about to demonstrate, is ran between August and September. For purposes of demonstration, I've changed it so I can between May and December, so I can show you it working. But it will delete all the year 13s and update the year for everybody else. So if we just quickly add another customer in a different year group, so let's say they're in year 10. Let's say that's their email. So between May, during the real thing, between August and September, this will show up, but outside of those times, you won't have an option 3. But basically, its purpose is you'd be adding in possibly over 100 pupils at the beginning of the year. So if we run this, how many pupils would you like to add? Just for the purposes of this, we'll just do 2 pupils. Would you like to continue to delete this whole year group? So that's the year 13, which you would want to do because they have left and they are no longer needed on the database. Bob Marley. Into the house. This is just random data for and the second customer, call him Bill Joe, e-house, so he's in year 10. Bill at Okay, so now if we go and refresh our data, we've got rid of Bailey McAtee because they were in year 13, and we've added these 3 to the database. And which is key, we had Joe Bloggs, who was in year 10, is now updated to year 11. So that is all done automatically whenever that piece of code is run between August and September, which is the start of the school year. Okay, so now I will demonstrate some error checking, which is essential when working with databases that handle only specific data types. And there's certainly lots of margin for error when inserting customer names and customer details. So we'll explore that. So when inserting a customer, we need to make sure that obviously they use letters only, and the first letter is a capital. So I'll just demonstrate some common or some easy mistakes. So let's say that which is next to an M from McAtee was inserted. It'll say please use only letters and start with a capital, and give us the option to do it again. Okay, so if we don't use any capitals, it'll tell us again to do this, and we'll keep going until obviously you get it right. Bam, on to the next one. The house. So at Bradfield, obviously there are only a certain number of houses, and so they're all letter based. So obviously if we include a number, that won't like it. If we put in a lowercase c, which is a house, it also won't like it. If we put in a capital O, which is not a house, it also won't like it. So it is keeping you directly to the housing regime. So say a capital G. So when dealing with the year of the customer, at Bradfield you've got a range of year 9 to 13. So to ensure no errors are made on that part, it will reject anything outside of the range. So 8 will be rejected, 14 will be rejected, and just a boundary check, 9 should be accepted. Yes, and we'll move on. Okay, so lastly, the email needs to be verified in order for the customer to receive receipts of their orders via email. They need a valid email address, and obviously quite a lot can be wrong with an email address, so just we wouldn't want a colon, for example. If we make everything else correct, we can check that it rejects the colon. Yes. You would need a dot here, so let's check that rejects. Yes. You would need an @ sign, obviously. Let's say that also rejects. Yep, and then a valid email address would be this, so check that works. Yes, that works. Another feature that this has is you are able to view a customer's details based on entering their name, so you can find their email and their year and house. So if we just go to manage customers and view a customer's details, and Joe Blogs is in the database, so if we type in Joe Blogs, we will receive just the details there. You can always exit the program by just selecting not to return to the main selection menu, and that will end the program. Another feature this stock control system has is, as I mentioned earlier, the notification when you need to reorder a certain item based on its stock level and a predetermined stock limit. So if you remember, we set for plain A4 the stock limit to 5. Currently it's 4, so it would already be in the reorder list, but I'll just add, make it, so this is plain A4, so remember it's 1. The current stock is 4, I'll just add up to 6, and then we can see it in action in an order. So what would happen in an order? So say Joe Blogs wants to order plain A4 paper, and he wants 7. So this will leave 3 remaining. So let's see what happens. Now obviously Joe Blogs' email is that, and I've just made that up, so that's not going to be undeliverable there. However, as the client or as the user, I would receive an email notifying me that the item, plain A4 paper, the stock is 3. It just reminds you of the stock limit and what time it happened, and says this item should be ordered at the earliest convenience, just as a reminder or as a notification that you need to restock. And obviously the stock limit can be anything based on the popularity of the item and numerous other factors.